Welcome, dog lovers, to In Dog We Trust, a podcast about the dogs in our lives. I'm your host, Tim Clement. Today, my new friend, Kimberly Allen, is going to share some of her memories and insights about the dogs in her life. Kim, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out to our home. It's a pleasure to meet you. You're the first person that I've interviewed that I didn't know before today.
What a treat.
If that
That's
makes
fun.
sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you for having me.
Do you have a dog that you would like to kick this whole thing off by talking about? Maybe the dog that you weren't able to bring today.
I'd be happy to talk about Rudy. Rudy loves to be talked about and loves to be loved. So Rudy is my 12-year-old long-haired Chihuahua Papillon mix. So picture kind of a smaller build dog, about 12 pounds. He's got black fur that he really likes to stand in front of a fan, especially when it's hot. And so then his fur kind of looks all supermodel-y as it's kind of billowing around his head. He has these ears that when he's expressive and they're up, they kind of swoop down. They look like they're meant to have like a little feather or a long earring in them. Rudy, I think
do you ever add any?
I want to. I was just thinking about doing that. I feel like he would be very annoyed by it, but I think it would really accentuate how cute he is. So
I'm sorry, what's his name again?
Rudy. R-U-D-Y. Yeah.
Like, was the Clash song any kind of inspiration for that?
I wish that there was some thoughtful reason. At Kids Up Humane Society, which is where I adopted Rudy from, he came in around Christmas time, and so they had picked a bunch of different Christmas names for the incoming dogs. So someone had assigned him Rudolph, and then he had been called Rudy for short. And he had been adopted out twice before I adopted him, and they had kept the name Rudy. And so by the time I adopted him...
They sent him back?
They did, yeah.
How does that happen?
Well, Rudy has a lot of chronic health concerns and issues.
He came that way.
He came that way.
He's a supermodel, but he's got some health issues.
Correct, yeah. Yeah. If you looked under Rudy's skin, there's nothing supermodel about that. His bones... He's broken a front limb. He has a pelvic crush injury on the back end, and so his pelvis is kind of reconstructed all weird, like where his hips fit into the sockets. They're kind of out of alignment, and so we have to be really conscientious about Rudy's mobility and activity so that he maintains that muscle support on his legs, but he doesn't overdo it where he's going to have discomfort. So his first two adopters sort of found out the scope of his health concerns and realized that that wasn't something that they wanted to do for the next decade of their life. At the time I was working at Kids Up Humane Society.
You can't fault him for being forthcoming.
No. Yeah, and honestly that's a gift for Rudy. I mean, he has required a lot of maintenance over the last decade. I've talked about Rudy's bowels and bowel movements more than I ever thought I would talk about someone's bowels and bowel movements.
But you're a nurse.
I was, so yes, it's true. Which I think my unique skill set and propensity to hyper-focus on things has served Rudy well over the last decade, so. Yeah.
What, quick aside, you also worked at no longer work at the Humane Society.
I did.
And that's in Silverdale, right?
Yes, yeah. So Kids Up Humane Society is the local animal shelter in our region. It's located off of Dickey Road. They have adoption services. They have a low-cost veterinary clinic. They do spaying, neutering, microchipping, and then if you're looking to add a family member to your life and they're going to be in the fuzzy form, I highly recommend checking them out. So.
We have definitely adopted from there.
Lovely.
I think just once, and she was the most wonderful dog named Angel.
Oh, so. I'm glad that Angel lived up to her name.
Yeah, she did indeed. Yeah. So did you have dogs as a child?
I did. I was born in San Diego, but I moved up here with my family when I was 2.
Navy?
My dad was in the Navy in San Diego, and then he became a civil servant and got a job at the shipyard, which I think is pretty common for people when they're getting out of the military.
Bremerton Shipyard.
Yes, yeah. So, and he worked there for probably the better part of 3 decades. He just retired maybe 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, like it's like being a Boeing employee or something, right?
Yeah. You just kind of stick with it for some time. So So when we moved up here, my parents bought a house on a couple of acres, and this was in the late 80s or very early 90s. And the house had 2 dogs that had lived there their whole lives. They were older, maybe 10 or 13, somewhere in that range. Duchess and Heine were their names. Duchess was an Irish setter with these like really billowy ears, again, kind of like Ruby.
Perfect name.
Yeah. And then Heine was a Heinz variety. So she was kind of this like yellow poof with legs. And both dogs had lived in that house their whole lives, and the people that were moving felt like it would be too disruptive for them to move. And they felt like their tie was more with the house than the people. Isn't that really interesting?
They left the dogs with you?
They did, yeah. It was part of the agreement.
That's almost, I haven't heard of that before.
I hadn't either, yeah.
But they apparently made the right decision?
I think so. I mean, from my perspective, Duchess and Heine were very attached to the house. Duchess would do this thing where if we left, like if we either walked down to the school bus or if we drove away, she would run with us out onto the road. It was a small kind of country road, and there wasn't a lot of traffic at the time, and the neighbors all knew to keep an eye out for Duchess. And she would run to the top of a hill, and then she would turn around and she would bark. It was just a little ritual she did.
Spin?
She would spin and bark. And then she would run herself back home. And she did that every time we left. And I thought that was just so charming.
I knew a dog that did that.
Really?
I forget what breed it was now, but...
Yeah. The spin bark or like following
the spin bark.
People? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think it's just a way that she was just like cheering us on so that we would come back. So, so she kept that behavior up even when we moved in, and she lived quite a long life with us. I think another 4 or 5 years on top of her 12 or 13. Nice. And then Heine didn't like children, which was a problem because I was quite young at the time. And so I was just convinced that Heine would like me. So I think I was bitten by Heine multiple times. I don't think it was ever...
And you didn't become afraid?
No. It's just like, my mom would say, like, don't bother Heine. And then I would go bother Heine, and then I would get bitten. And then you'd think at some point I would learn that lesson.
But you got a lot of... intestinal fortitude not to become afraid of dogs after that.
That's a good point. Yeah. I did learn, I think I did learn at some point not to like lay on top of Heine because that would usually require me to get bitten.
You just never backed off.
I was just so persistent. So, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, like towards the end, I think Heine was a lot more tolerant of me, and I think I was a lot more respectful of Heine, and I think I did learn through that kind of foundational young lesson that dogs also have boundaries and they communicate them in a different way than we do, and that respecting and listening to them can help you prevent an escalation to a bite.
I think that's definitely true.
Totally,
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Like Heine would give me multiple chances
they do,
to do something different. They're all subtle and nice. And then when you don't pay attention to them, then at some point they might have to escalate to something that's a bit less pleasant for us.
Huh.
Yeah.
So, Kim, looking back, I just wanted, first of all, I'd like to hear more about other dogs in your childhood. But it occurs to me that one's relationship with people and dogs changes over time. And I think when we were talking earlier, you talked about life unfolding in chapters. I like that. Is there were the earlier chapters about dogs different from what's your relationship with your dog or with dogs in general now?
Yeah, that's a really profound question. I think we're always changing as beings, right? I think you can fact check me on this one, but I think it's like every 7 years we shed like all of our skin and all of our cells, and they regenerate. And so like every 7 years there's a completely new version of us from like a molecular cellular level. And I think that that's true both like physically and psychologically and spiritually as we journey through life. So I do think of my life as having different chapters with the dogs that I've shared it with. When I was young, like pretty young, we had Duchess and Heine. And so that took me from, being 2-3 years old until kind of maybe the end of my first decade on this planet. When I was maybe 11 or 12, it seemed like it was time where I could care for my own dog. And so my parents decided that they would help me get a dog, and then I could do 4-H with that dog. So this is going to be my first dog, right? Which is a pretty typical.
4-H?
Yeah, 4-H is kind of the local club where you can get involved if you have an animal and you want to show it at the fair, or you want to learn more about dog showing or cat showing, or they have 4-H clubs for just about anything: horses, rabbits, guinea pigs. So I had actually already done 4-H with my guinea pig Cookie. And so I had taken Cookie to some shows where, guinea pigs are just kind of like little loafs, right? And so I would just kind of set Cookie up and then have to kind of maneuver her so that she would be like on show when the judges came around.
And you had to comb her probably.
Keep her clean.
Yeah.
But Cookie was named Cookie because Cookie ate a lot of cookies. So Cookie was a pretty rotund guinea pig. So she never actually won because no one could see her body score, because she was just a little loaf of a guinea pig.
Hey, it's the competing sometimes. You don't have to win.
It's true. Yeah, so many lessons learned in that. So from there, I wanted to do that with a dog. And so we, at the time, had looked through the Little Nickel, which was like a newspaper that had advertisements and things.
Yeah, I love that. It's too bad that's gone.
I know. I love the Little Nickel. It was so fun. And so we looked through, and for a minute I was going to get maybe a Schipperke, which is like a little black dog with no tail. And then we decided on an Australian, I don't even remember what breed Boomer was, but some sort of Australian little dog.
Like Shepherd, maybe? Australian Shepherd? No.
I think it was a terrier of some kind.
Oh.
Yeah, it kind of looked like a Yorkie, but like a little bit more sporty than a Yorkie.
Yeah, athletic.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we got Boomer, and I had started working with Boomer on leash training and coming and sitting, etc. And I had Boomer for about a year, maybe a little bit more than that. And unfortunately, Boomer would run away if he didn't have a leash attached to him. So it didn't have to be like staked out in the yard. It didn't have to be connected to anything. It just had to be on him. And he would stay in the yard. But if you took the leash off, he would kind of run away. And so very often we would just put a leash on Boomer, and then he would be out in the yard. And this is actually a little bit sad, and so trigger warning for anyone who's lost a pet. But one day Boomer did go missing, and we thought he had ran off. And so we had put different things in the paper and tried to find Boomer, and a few weeks had gone past, and I did find Boomer, and he had died. So his leash had gotten caught around something when he was jumping into the woods, and he had broken his neck and died immediately.
Oh my God.
And so, I know, yeah. Excuse me for being a little bit emotional.
Never excuse yourself for the people.
So, that was probably my first real experience with death.
Right. I think that a lot of humans encounter death the first time this way.
Maybe it's a goldfish, maybe it's a cat, maybe it's your dog. So it was definitely, I think discovering Boomer's body was traumatic.
It was you discovering? Mm-hmm. Oh my God. You were out looking for him.
I was out playing because it had been about three weeks. And so I was just playing in the woods, and that's what I did at the time. We had a lot of forest, and so I was playing in the woods, and I did smell something that smelled, now I know that that's the smell of death, but at the time I was just like, oh, that's kind of a weird smell. What's happening over there? And then I'd come across Boomer.
Heavy.
It was a lot. And I've always been, someone who grieves in a very loud way, when it's acutely happening.
You deal with it. That's what they do in Mexico. When you go to a Mexican funeral, everybody's crying, people are fainting. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not saying that's wonderful that they're fainting, but they don't mess around with grief. They dive right in. Yeah. That's why I wrote that dog book, I wanted to discuss, Yeah, it seems like Americans are afraid to grieve.
I think so.
You know, they want to avoid death.
I think also, like, sometimes if you're so disconnected from your body, then you, like, try to repress what the body wants to do. But, like, when you're
connected.
Yeah, when you're, like, really connected to the experience of the body, like, loss like that is really painful. And it hurts. And when you hurt, you cry out. Like, the body wants to cry out. It wants to release.
This is crazy because you were talking about dogs, not during this interview, but just right before, you were talking about how dogs are more connected to their bodies. And also you were talking about how dogs in many respects epitomize qualities that we aspire to, in the same way that I am interested in the topic.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting how present dogs seem to what is actually happening. I think so often us humans can be in our heads thinking about whatever. We're thinking about the future, we're thinking about the past, maybe we're thinking a little bit about what's currently happening, but in a way we're almost removed from, like, the physiological experience of what's happening in the moment. And I think dogs don't necessarily have that disconnect. They seem very in tune with what's happening in their body, what they're picking up from a sensory perspective, and then how that influences, like, what's happening right now and what's going to happen next.
Like, we have a tendency to deny what we're feeling. Like, I definitely know I do that. I'll push and push and push and push. But sometimes I see dogs doing that. Like, when I was fetching, throwing the ball for my dog on a hot day on pavement, not knowing enough at that time in my life. And her pads got blistered.
Sure.
But she would have kept going.
Yeah. I think sometimes with bulldogs especially, like, that prey drive,
it's crazy.
Yeah, when
They're
it kicks
so
on, it's so hard to kick it off.
Bulldogs. Huh?
Yeah. My parents had a retriever.
Yeah.
Kinda was her name, and she would play fetch for hours, and she loved to swim, so she would play fetch into the water.
Yeah.
And so they actually had to stop her from doing it because she would never stop herself.
Yeah.
And, in the sound, it's cold, and so there's, like, just a lot of sensory experiences that are happening that she was probably overriding just to kind of have that prey drive of going for the ball.
She just loved going for it, making that dive.
Yeah. I do think what's interesting, though, is that, like, we were talking a minute ago about sort of the grief experience, and what I've seen with my dogs, my dogs have lost their dogs too over time, right? Like, their pack mates, their family members. And I don't feel like they aren't wailing usually. Like, they don't seem to express themselves quite as vocally or dramatically as we do, but I definitely still can see, like, sadness or missing.
They change their behavior, it seems like.
They do.
Like, you can see changes, and they're not necessarily, like you were saying, they're not human reactions. They're dog reactions.
Right.
And if if you're not sensitive to them, you might miss them altogether. But like, what kind of behavioral changes did you notice?
Yeah. So, that first sort of chapter of dogs, shortly after Boomer, I adopted a dog named Shadow, and I had Shadow for about 13, 14 years. I adopted him from Kids Up Humane Society. He was a little Cocker Spaniel. And so Shadow saw me from, like, teenagerhood until my early 20s, which a lot of life happens during that period of time. Like, Shadow was in my life when I graduated from high school, and when I went off to college. He stayed back with my parents, and then I had gotten married, and he stayed with my husband and I for a bit. But he also seemed to really like the home that he had grown up in, which is the place that my parents lived. So following Shadow, though, when he passed away, I was really interested in having, like, a dog. This is, I didn't expect to get so emotional. I'm so sorry, Tim. Today, actually, is the 5-year anniversary of my dog Bella's death. And And
dogs are people, man. You feel it. You feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bella was my soulmate dog. I adopted Bella when I was in my early 20s, and she just saw me become who I am today. And she helped me become who I am today.
How so?
She watched me grow from like a 20-year-old who didn't know how to be a human. She watched me go from someone who worked as a registered nurse on night shift and started kind of experiencing a lot of traumas and building up like a skill set that I have today that I didn't have when we were first together. She trained for a marathon with me.
Wow.
Yeah. So Bella, I think she just really taught me like patience. Like I was definitely a lot more impatient. I was less sort of aware of like how my actions influenced and impacted her and other people. And so she like had the grace to kind of see me through all of that into becoming someone different.
I imagine you would come home from work kind of traumatized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And she was always there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she was
and
always
they
there.
have a way of nestling up to you or something, and you it's not a thing you can see so much as something you can feel.
Yeah.
It seems to me.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Like an empathy or something.
Yeah.
Very
just
deep.
a consistent presence,
Yeah.
like kind of understanding energetically
Yeah.
that something was off and trying to like give me the gift of her energy, sort of righting it or bringing it back to neutral.
So, what's the most dogs you've had at one time?
Yeah, 3. 3 dogs, which 3 dogs is a lot, no matter the size of the dogs. But then I had 2 very big dogs, and then Rudy, little Rudy. And so that was a lot.
Rudy, 12-pounder.
12-pound Rudy, yeah. Yeah, 12-pound Rudy joined Bella, who I adopted in, I think, 2009, actually. And Bella was maybe a large Catahoula leopard dog pity mix.
With the spots.
Yes,
Sweet.
yeah. So she was
Nice.
gray, but she had little specks of like tan and brown and white. And then Duke, who I adopted in 2012, and he is a Great Dane. And so...
Like after Marmaduke.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't... At the time, I was kind of thinking like a royals theme, so I thought I would name a dog like Prince and Queen. And,
Right. Yeah.
But then I was like, but I'll start with Duke. And then I very quickly realized that that's like the most common Great Dane name out there. So I was maybe like a year into the name Duke, and I thought, well, that's a little on the nose. But yes, like Marmaduke.
My name's Tim, so I don't know.
So Duke was a black Great Dane with a little bit of white on his chest, and then as he got older, a little bit of white on his chin, and he had natural ears. So I never cropped his ears, so he had those kind of long, like natural Great Dane ears.
Nice.
Very cute. Yeah. So we had those 3, and that was a lot. That was a lot of dog. I was reflecting on that over the weekend, just how much space big dogs take up. I mean, you probably know that. You have 2 big dogs as well.
We have 2, but
yeah. Duke had his own couch most of the time, and he would break down a couch because he would lay on it for 8 to 12 hours a day, right, plus all night. And so
how many pounds?
He was 130.
Wow.
At his biggest.
Big dog.
He was usually around 120. But I think we had 5 different couches for Duke over his life. And like he would lay on them and the springs would kind of start to break down, and then it would kind of get all gross, and then we would have to like get rid of that couch, and then someone would be like, free couch, and we would take it, and that would be Duke's couch, and then he would break that couch down, and then we would do it all over again. So there was the Duke couch, and then there was like the human couches in the house. Yeah.
So they were your pack.
They were, yeah, they were.
How did they relate? Did they relate like pack? Like one would think, was there a pack leader?
Yeah, Bella. Yeah, Bella was always the pack leader. And even with our cat, like we had a cat named Izzy, who Duke and Izzy were pretty close. Izzy was always pretty wary of Bella. And when Bella died, Izzy just like came into her own. Like she was like, oh, great, she's gone. And so suddenly Izzy became a very vocal cat. She was very demanding. I think it was all of these behaviors that she was suppressing without us even realizing that Bella was kind of keeping things going a certain way. Like, I think if Izzy had tried to be vocal and demanding, Bella would have been like, what are you doing? You're a cat. Get out of here. And so without Bella's presence, Izzy was like, oh, I'm in control now.
With the Great Dane.
Oh, yeah.
And the pit mix.
Yeah. So Izzy would come out with Duke and with little Rudy once Bella had passed, and she kind of ran the show at that point. And Duke was like, okay, this works for me. I like cats. So, and it's interesting too how different dogs take different treats. Like with my crew, Bella, Duke, and Rudy, Bella, I would have to say gentle. And if I didn't say gentle, she would like take your first fingers. But if you said gentle, she would be like, okay, I'll do it gently. And Duke, who's a Great Dane, who has a mouth the size of my hand and forearm, he would take it like the softest take. Like he would almost be like, oh, I'm so sorry, I have to touch you while I take this treat. And then when he would take it, he would almost always drop it out and then investigate it. But if all three were there, by the time he dropped it out, somebody else had eaten it. Then he wouldn't get the treat. So I gave him his bowl up kind of high on a plant stand, and I would try and give him treats over his bowl, so he would drop it into his bowl so he could investigate it, and then he could eat it.
Because he's tall enough that the dogs...
and then nobody else could get in there. And then Rudy, he's like just a little like garbage vacuum cleaner. Like for having the worst gastrointestinal system that I've ever seen in a living being, he loves to just go around and eat whatever garbage he finds on the ground. So that's great because he's supposed to be on a very specific diet, and instead he's like, ooh, this little bit of potato chip, don't mind if I do. So it's so interesting though how like Rudy will gobble up a treat, Bella will take my fingers if I don't ask her not to, and Duke will be like, oh, so sorry to inconvenience you. So
he's very demanding. Like, why do you do it?
That's a good question.
You obviously you love him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it because you love him? Is it because what is he like? I mean, there's probably some reciprocity involved, right?
Yeah. I mean, it feels good to be adored, right?
It feels so good to be adored.
Yeah, and that's what dogs do. Is they're like, you are a human being that's very complex, and I absolutely adore you. And where do you get that except from a dog?
Yeah. I mean, they're not all like equally loving, but it seems like they're as a species, they're incredibly loving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would use the word love. I wouldn't hesitate to use the word love.
Yeah, and I think, I think you said this at the intro of the podcast about how dogs are forgiving and loyal, and they are all of those things. Like Rudy is so loving, and his favorite times of the day are right before meals. He loves meals, and he gets like excited and dances and like barks and puts on a show. When I get home, like if he even hears the car and he thinks it's me, he like loses his mind inside, and he's like dancing around and barking. Jesse, my partner, likes to play this game called Find Mom, and he'll like tell Rudy like if they're gonna come pick me up from the ferry, or I used to walk to work and they would come pick me up from work sometimes, and he would be like, do you want to find Mom? And he gets all excited and he jumps in the car, and then I think he thinks that he's single-handedly the reason that they're successful in finding me from wherever they're finding me. Like he's always up there and on alert and looking out the window, and then like when he sees me, his whole body gets excited. Like that's really beautiful.
He's your kid.
Yeah, and also my grandpa at the same time, because he's he's 12 now, and he's always had like so many medical challenges that I feel like I've been managing his health for so long that he's my child, but he's also like an old man with a bunch of particularities and quirks.
And wisdom.
Yeah, and wisdom, yeah. So he's a grandpa and a baby at the same time.
Do you think that's your biggest takeaway from the wisdom that you've gleaned from dogs?
Yeah, I think taking things less seriously, probably realizing that it's all really finite.
Finite. finite. Anybody who's ever been through a major health issue knows that it's very, well, you learn two things. You learn that the life is short.
Yeah.
And you also learn that modern medicine really does quite a lot.
Yeah. 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 You do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think anytime you're faced with mortality, your own or someone you love, it makes you realize that like every moment is precious.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure talking to you about dogs.
Yeah.
Dog bless you.
Thank you.